All right. Hello. Yo, dog. Yo, Slothy. Hey, B. How's everyone doing? Seems like my internet has been stabilizing now. The drop frames are going down. Because goddamn. I was literally still like setting up everything, and then all of a sudden I just see on the side like, oh yeah, frame drops like crazy. But it should be fine now. It should be better. How's everyone doing? I feel like I could have gotten a bit more sleep. I even fell asleep again after I woke up. I had a rough day yesterday, but we're doing the best we can. It's doing good now. 7 buckets, a good day for me. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think I went to sleep around like 7 in the morning after not being asleep since the community night. And then I woke up at like 2 p.m. and then fell back asleep at like 4 or 5 until like 6 or 7. So it's been a day, that's for sure. But we're doing the best, and I'm always looking forward to the book. The book is always a highlight. So yeah, we're definitely doing that. On top of that, oh wait, why is that's not the full lyrics, huh? I'm also, we might do some karaoke today. Who knows? Who knows? I did. Okay. Or is this like, no. Yo, Wiz, what's up? How you doing, man? Okay, let me just add this here real quick. For some reason, it didn't add the full lyrics here. Because I made a document with all the lyrics of the songs that I've been thinking about singing. So, I'm up for karaoke. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Definitely be doing that today. I think I have like 5 or 6 songs ready. I made a little like text file with like all the lyrics of those songs. Let me see how many songs this is now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's 5 songs. Totally down for karaoke. I still don't think I sound great, but I mean, hey, I'm having fun with it. I haven't done it in a while, so we're rocking with it today. I guess, okay, you guys can basically decide which song by just giving me a number from 1 through 5. We can do it at some point today. I'm not sure if we're gonna start with it, but we'll see. We can do a bunch of things today. Definitely after the book, I will probably go as usual on Genshin and stuff, because there's a new event I still need to start doing. Is there a Persona song perhaps? Actually, no. There is not. I don't think I could do that because Lynn's voice is just too crazy with all the like the belting and everything she does in most of them. I'm not too confident in even tackling those. And don't even get me started on the raps in 3. Like, I can't rap like that. There's one song from a Japanese artist, but it is a fully English song. Like, she made full-on English lyrics for it. There has been one song I actually managed to do in full Japanese as well, but yikes, we're not gonna do that again. But yeah, those songs we can do at some point today. I was even thinking if I could find a German one to do. No, the song is like the song that I picked. She does usually do Japanese lyrics, but that song is full on in English. Like, she sings in English as well and everything. But she is a Japanese artist, so. I did sing a full Japanese song though before, which was the second opening to Frieren, because I've listened to that so many times, and it's fairly easy Japanese, I would say, like fairly easy pronunciation, that I managed to do that fairly successfully, I would say. I have been thinking about a German song as well, but as well, the thing is, I don't listen to a lot of German music. I am not in, like, I do not really know a lot of German songs, so I wouldn't know what kind of song to pick for that. It would be fair, of course. It has to be. I don't think I could do the first opening, actually, but I can do the second opening. And I've done it twice on stream already. So there's that. But yeah, I don't know about German songs, I'm gonna be honest. It would be cool at some point if I could do a German song. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. But today is not that day. Let me see what Google will say if I just Google good German karaoke songs. Of course, okay. Yeah, no, it's... I am not surprised to see these songs here, but I'm not gonna do any of these. Oh my god, they even put fucking Rammstein, Du hast. That would be crazy. Top 15 German karaoke songs. Number 2, America, Rammstein. Okay. Rammstein for karaoke sounds insane, right? I mean, I can roll the R's like they do. It's not that hard. But still, I don't think I'm gonna do that. You know what would be even crazier? How about a French song? I've listened to like 2-3 French songs, right? I could do that. No. Also, we got a nice Pokemon mug again, like always. Hell yeah. I mean, I've had French in school for like 6 years, but I haven't talked French in like 10 years. I don't think I can remember anything from that. Like, don't get me started on that shit. Oh my god, Tokyo Hotel. It's one of the recommendations of like the top 15. Okay, we have David Hasselhoff. Okay, I mean, Wholesome is actually not too bad. That might actually be one we can do at some point. Yeah, I've done French for like 6 years in school, but I forgot all of it. I haven't spoken it in over 10 years, so like everything is just gone. Skills 0. Oh my god, I haven't heard this song. I remember what's the word books were read. What's the word books were read? I don't think I even know that one. The workbooks were red. Okay, I think mine were yellow for French. I had yellow. I think English was red for me usually. Yeah, my English workbooks were red and my French I think was yellow, and so was German actually. German and French were both yellow for me, which was kind of confusing. But yeah, it was good. I mean, it did allow me to skip out on Spanish classes on vocational school, which was fun. Because that meant if it was like in the middle of the day on the schedule, I just had free time. And since my school building was like close to town center, I could just go into town for like an hour or something, grab some food, buy some other things, you know, and just come back for school in the next hour or something. That you're learning something like, I mean, German and English were mandatory. And since I went for an A-levels degree and I already knew I wanted to go for it pretty early on, it does require you to have another language apart from German and English. And my secondary school offered French, so I started doing French there. When I went for my A-levels extra 3 years in vocational school, they did offer Spanish, but since, like I said, I already did French, I was able to drop Spanish there, which was pretty cool. Like I said, I had just free time during that time. Or the best part is when it starts, like when the day starts with French, with Spanish. That would just mean I didn't have to even like be at school. I could come into school like an hour and a half later, because we always have like 90 minutes lessons, so I could sleep longer. I had to go to school later. There was one time, usually school starts at 7:30 for us, and then at 9 you have like a 30-minute break, and then you start the next 90 minutes. And we had one time where we wouldn't start until 9:30 or like until 9:30 anyway. So people were already able to sleep longer, and then the first 90 minutes were Spanish, so I had to come to school at like 11 a.m. or something, which was obviously really nice because that meant I could sleep until like 9 or 10 and then get ready for school. That was one of the best schedules I've had. It's really fun. I think we only had 2 people in my class that were dropped out of Spanish. So like 28 people or something had to go to school at 9, and the rest were able to go to school at like 11. 3 periods. So yeah, I loved it. The best part was like, because I was like the only one as well that would leave the school campus at that time and like go into town and all. And I mean, it's the town center, so we have a lot of like fast food places there as well. Some of my classmates would come up to me like during during recess before the lesson, and they were like, yo, when you go into town, when you come back, yo, can you get me something from like Burger King or McDonald's? And then they have their Spanish lesson. I'm running around city center. I'm coming back for the next like 25-minute break, and during that break they just eat their fucking McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, whatever I got for them. I just go back to school with like bags of fast food for everybody. It was great. I mean, the teachers didn't really care, because if we like leave campus or not, because like we're old enough, we can take care of ourselves. And that was especially prevalent during our class trips. I mean, class trip 11th grade was a bit more strict because we had some people that were under 18. There was like right at the edge of like 17, 18. So some people were still like 17, so they had to be a bit more strict. But our class trips to Prague and Amsterdam, we were all like 18 plus. The teachers didn't really mind what we did in our free time, as long as we were able like to join all the activities that were planned and were, you know, present in the morning at the breakfast and everything. I mean, they went out almost every evening into a bar with like a couple of students just chilling, drinking, talking, hanging out, like the teachers with the students. Like they didn't really care, as long as we were all there the next morning, which was cool. Like we decided to go to the biggest club in Europe in Prague one night, and came back to the hotel at like 4 in the morning, and then had to be ready at like 7. We had to walk all the way from the club to the hotel because no public transport was available at that time as well. It was crazy. To be fair, I didn't really drink much in the club, and I was just like chilling with my friends there, but like we were allowed to go there basically. Like we had no restriction. Whatever happens to Prague stays in Prague. Exactly. I didn't do much. I didn't drink anything in the club because it was fucking expensive there anyway. I was just vibing with my friends. I forgot where we left off in the book. Oh right, we finished chapter 3, which was the end of it was like the whole thing that Tess is now in possession of that magical artifact that can open up the portals inside the world itself. from the robbery. Right. Okay. And we have this like really sus dude there that is like friends with Tess, but he also is kind of like very shady. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I think we're gonna do the some of the karaoke afterwards. I don't know. But yeah, and then later on during Genshin, we will probably do the new event, the new Fontaine event, because I haven't started that yet. I'm still like, what the fuck was the was the newest Archon quest? The lore implications and everything that happened are fucking insane. I am very much looking forward to where that is going now. I didn't do it yet. Oh, a bunch of shit is happening in there, which but it also kind of like references stuff from 2.3 and last summer special, like the last summer event Simulanka. At least it gives you a recap of the things from the 2.3 update, so you're not fully in the blinds. But they still like it's just a very quick summary from what that event was back then. I still think they should, like, if they gonna add so many big lore drops and important pieces of lore that are becoming more and more relevant now in events that are limited time only, they should give the players an opportunity to replay them. Either for, you know, veterans to get a refresher, or for new players to even experience them for the first time. Like, they're bringing back shit from, like I said, they've even referenced stuff from like 1.1 and stuff and all before. Like, sure, they've planned it all out in advance and it's all like now coming together, but most of the stuff is not available for you guys. I'm in the fortunate position that I've started the game when it came out. I have experienced all of these events. I know exactly what they're talking about. I have seen it all. But for most of the newer players and for like most of you guys here in the chat, like most of those things, you weren't there for that. And it's crazy how many things they're now bringing up from all these past events. That just makes me feel like the more they're gonna do like this, the more they really should start to implement a feature to replay older events. Like, I don't remember every single event ever released to the fullest as well. I'm sure, like, if they reference it, I will get the reference, and if it's like a big piece of lore, I will still know it. But like, I would love some refreshers of some older events. I think the second summer event was also pretty important at some point with Mona and Fischl. And even in the new Archon quest, that device they use to communicate, to call Alice and to like communicate between each other, the Dodo communication device, first appeared in 1.6 in the summer event. Because that was the first time we talked to Alice, because she wanted us to bring Klee to those islands for a nice little adventure and a break, you know? So we talked to Alice there. There's so many little things they're now bringing back that is all lost to newer players that makes me sad. And really hope that at some point they will add those back. Or like find a way that to just even make it available for people to play again. Because otherwise, you just have to YouTube it. Yo, Dark, how's it going? Like, you just have to basically look it up on YouTube or somebody playing through it or something. Or, you know, just uploading all those cutscenes and stuff. Because otherwise, you won't have any clue. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's like, oh, you don't know shit. Like, it's unfortunate you guys cannot experience that. As much as I hope they would make it more available. Also, hopefully, maybe already sometime next week or during the next week, me and my friend are going to be able to play, what's it called, Split Fiction. I'm really looking forward to playing that because I love both A Way Out and It Takes Two. And the trailer for Split Fiction already looked super amazing and I really want to play it. And my friend said that on his birthday or like through in the next few days after his birthday, he might buy it. And it's either, let me look it up again. I think it was either today or tomorrow. It's his birthday, so who knows? Let's expect Split Fiction is a ton of fun. I mean, I haven't looked into anything of it. I do not want to get any spoilers for that game. So I have avoided everything, even mentioning this game. Like, live streams, videos, anything. I have not watched anything regarding that game. I think it's either tomorrow or the day after. It's my friend's birthday, and then you might pick up the game. I already downloaded the Friends Pass version, so he just has to buy it and then we can play it together. And then yeah, that'll probably happen on stream as well, because we streamed It Takes Two, we streamed A Way Out. We're gonna be streaming Split Fiction as well. Maybe we won't go as wild as we did on our first It Takes Two stream, but we'll see. Because on our first It Takes Two stream, if you guys were there, we both got super drunk and yeah, we had to replay certain bits of the game because we didn't remember. But yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely be playing it. We still have to finish the last We Were Here game as well, because yeah, we played through the first 4. There's a 5th one. I have it, we just have to play it. It's always fun playing these. Tour Germany when I go there. Fuck yeah. We definitely have to look more into similar games like that because we're really enjoying them. And I know there's way more than just We Were Here and the games from, I forgot what the studio is called right now. Goddamn. Oh, Hazelight, yeah. Hazelight Studio. Like, it has to be more of these like hidden gem kind of just co-op games that we could play. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it ever since it got announced on the Game Awards. Which we watched live together as well. That was great fun. Lots of cool things they revealed. This month is also gonna be pretty packed for me. The end of the month is gonna be some things because we'll have that. I'll be at that day again where they celebrate Japanese culture, which is gonna be May 24th. And then I think the anime awards were like May 23rd or May 25th. Let me see. May 25th. Okay. But I'm really looking forward to going to the Japan Day again because I go there every year. I would have said like, hey, maybe I'll like join the Discord, do like what we did the other day, that one time where I just went through town, just have you guys join the Discord and I have like my cam on, we're walking around talking and hanging out. But I do know that as soon as I get close to the premise, as soon as I get close to the river where all the stands and all the people are, the reception and the internet is just gonna die and I would not be able to keep it up. It would just not exist. I can walk with you guys to it once I get out the train, from the train to the river, but once I get close to the riverbanks, nah, you guys my work is easy because my internet will just be dead. So you guys won't be able to see anything. Which is unfortunate because especially the riverbanks and like that whole area is very beautiful. And at the end of that day, I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I hope I might have some people. I don't have anybody yet that I go with there, so maybe I can find somebody to go there with. Because at the end of the day, if I stay that long, there's going to be the whole like big traditional Japanese fireworks show that always just looks so beautiful live. We'll see. All right, I think we can start with the book for today. I'll be right back, and then we can start right up. All right, I'm back. Okay. Hi, Lily. How are you doing? Oh, do it like this. And then we shall start with the book for today, I guess. I'm scared of the fact of the name of the chapter, but we'll see how it goes, because chapter 4 is called The Open Door. You're the cutie, Slothy. Shut up. How are you doing? Turning up on the cross right now, dude. You're good. Yeah, y'all are the cuties. I'm just here. Getting ready to Trader Joe's. Today's the day. Let's go. I hope you get what you want. Some people forgot a toothbrushes exist. Straight up milk. You're putting that much tea in your milk in your tea, huh? I don't think I've ever tried tea with milk, actually. Like that much. I know you would never do that. I mean, makes sense. But I'm scared of the chapter name because it makes me feel like They might succeed with like the hand might succeed with their plan a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. My intrinsic motivation is like a high. I'm so happy to hear that, Slothy. I'm so happy to hear that. It's amazing. I'm glad it's coming back. 100%. You deserve it. It's been a rough 3 weeks for you, I know. And I'm here for you all the time. And I'm so happy that your motivation is coming back. And you can finally get your shit done. I know it's been rough for a long time. But especially the last like 2-3 weeks have been super rough on you. And I'm so happy to see that you're finally getting out of that rut again. You're starting to feel better. The motivation is coming back. It's amazing. I'm so happy. I'll make sure, like I said earlier, I'm probably gonna do like 2 or 3 songs karaoke today, but I will probably do them after the book. So hair be cute today? Nah, it's just normal hair. Didn't really do much with it after waking up. Yeah, so we're probably gonna do the karaoke after the book, like 2-3 songs maybe. So hopefully you're there too as well. I know you're gonna be having a busy day. You're gonna go out in a bit. You're gonna get your groceries for the week. Hair equal cute? No, it's not cute. It's just hair. I don't know about that. To be fair, I do think it looks better than my long hair. Because goddamn. Even though I grew it out for years before, for like 2-3 years, it was too much. My long hair was too much. I do prefer the shorter hair right now, and I'll try to keep it that way. Yeah, we'll see. I feel so what the fuck? Oh my god, Slothy. I would love to hear your piano streams again. I miss them. I really miss them. I know it's been rough, so I understand why you didn't. But I really miss them actually. Your piano playing and your singing is always so nice. I always look forward to it on Saturdays. I'm very much looking forward. If you're gonna be doing one next Saturday again, you know I will be there 100%. I'd love to hear you play again. It was one of the highlights of my week every time you were streaming, and I was able to catch it. Feel my soul. I'm so fucking happy. That makes me so freaking happy. Because I know how much music means to you. And I'm glad you're getting that back. You're doing amazing, Sathi. I love that. Doom pile is less doom, less pile. Let's go. Proud of you. Aww, you guys are so cute. Yeah, Slothy's streams are great, B. Her playing a slight frame drop. Oh. Doesn't show on my end here yet, but okay. Slothy's streams are great. I'm usually there every Saturday in her streams, and just like her smile on her face right now, I smile so much during those streams. And her playing is great. I could never. I could never. Oh, you can dominate me, Slothy. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm getting dominated. If you're gonna dominate the world, that means you're gonna dominate me, right? Yeah, so again, for later, if we do the karaoke, I have 5 songs prepared. I actually wrote down the lyrics in a little like text file, so it's a bit easier for me. But yeah, I have 5 different songs prepared, so I would let you guys vote on which song we're going to be doing first. We're probably going to do like 2 or 3 after we are done with the book. But I'm very much looking forward to it because I haven't done it in so long. When was the last time I did karaoke on stream, actually? I don't even remember. Do you guys remember? When was the last time? Yeah, really? Think back when you had to clip out copyright music. The last thing I had to actually like cut out of it was just me showing a song. That wasn't even me singing a song. I do know I did like a few songs on my birthday, obviously. But I think I've done it like once or twice after the birthday as well. But after that, I haven't done it for like at least like 3-4 months, I think. Something like that. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And this time as well, none of the songs I've picked out are actually from Alec Benjamin, because I know most of the, like, if I wanted to do karaoke again, I wanted to do something like, I wanted to do other songs than just Alec Benjamin songs all the time. I mean, they're like the songs I easily know the most of and I listen to a lot. And I mean, hey, I've been to his concerts fucking twice. Like, I know his songs by heart. So it's an easy song to do. Those are easy songs to do. But I also wanted to do some other ones, because it's not the only thing I listen to. But it's also hard because right now most of the songs I listen to is full on like just like Japanese kind of like rap EDM kind of stuff, and like ain't no fucking way I could like I can sing those lyrics. So I have to dig a little bit to find some songs we can do. But yeah, I have a list of like 5 here. I'll let you guys decide on which ones we can do, and then after the book we'll do some. 100%. I am so down for it today. All right. Like, really cute today. Stop it. You're going. I got another like hour in later. I actually fell asleep again afterwards. I was up for like 2 or 3 hours, and then I fell asleep for another hour. I slept from like 5 to 6 again or something. Go back home from the gym, so I'll be back hopefully in a little while. Hey, no worries, B. Take care. All right, let's start out with the book for today, shall we? We're back to our yapping for an hour before we start with the book, it seems, because we've been live for an hour and we haven't even started. Oops. Oh my god, stop it. You're cute, Slothy. I mean, when are you not? When are you not giving me compliments? And so I saw that. That was good. Looking good today. Yeah, maybe just today. Hey, Slothy, I could not take my eyes off of you. What do you mean? I always notice you. All right. So if we continue on with how we've been managing with this book, we're probably just gonna go from like cute laugh still. Oh my god. Breakfast time. Enjoy your breakfast. Yeah, if we're gonna continue on with how we've been doing it and like do 1 chapter a week, then yeah, we're gonna be doing all of chapter 4 today. I can tell, Slothy. It's amazing to see. I'm so happy for you. I'm so freaking happy for you. For the 6 p.m. Hi, Crystal. Damn. Back to my hole. No! At least let me in that hole as well, you know? I'm so happy to see you, Crystal. I mean, I'm so happy to see that, Slothy. I'm so, like, it makes me smile so much. Trying valiantly not to fall asleep. Ah, I know it's been a crazy day, you know. It's been a long day for you as well. Please get some good rest. I'll be starting with the book soon, so you can just fall asleep to my voice. Yo, can I join in as well in that shower? Huh? Damn. Everything I've ever dreamed of. Aww. You're cute, Crystal. I love you. Aww. That's adorable. Oh my god, Crystal. You guys are crazy. I love y'all. Just held kittens. Oh, that is so cute. Should have taken some pictures. I would have loved to see them. You know what, guys? How about we're doing a little song before we start the book, actually. One song now. I'll have what she's having. Let's do one song now. Why not? You guys give me a number 1 through 5. Need to change one little setting here, though. I don't want to hear myself while singing. There we go. Still 1. It's right there in her username. Aww. Well, if it is number 1, Slothy, you know, I've sent you the lyrics to that song earlier. It's true, though. So should we go with number 1 or should we go with a different number? Should I just do a random number generator, or are you guys, what do you guys want? One. I mean, I could do one, or we could do random number generator. It's up to you guys. I just typed in random with a U. Random. Wait, what? Crystal, you need to send me the link. Hello? Okay. Let me see. Okay. It's not too loud right now. Let's adjust the volume. Sweet dreams. Alright, guys. One way or another. I mean, I would love to have Crystal here. I would also love to have you here, Slothy. We'd have a great time together. Just my eyes and ears enjoying this delightful feast. Oh my god, stop it. That's enough now. You guys are amazing. I'm just sitting here yapping. It's the hair. Oh my god. It's so cute in the front, yeah, but it's bad in the back, and especially getting like pushed down here in the middle, just like. Bad in the back too. Oh, I'm sure. Food time. Enjoy your food. Right. As always, I guess we're going to do one full chapter, and then we'll see what we do afterward. There. Lila's luggage hit the floor with a heavy thud. You know what I love? She said, looking around. You can change the name on the sign and the number of stairs. You can change the color of the walls and the view beyond the window. No matter how many worlds you cross, a tavern inn is still a tavern inn. She took a deep breath. Sawdust and stale ale always makes me feel at home. Kel turned in a slow circle, taking in their room at the setting sun. Ilkar is Ilkaskor, he said. To each their own. But in truth, he understood the point. He had kept a room of his own here once, years before. It had been a respite from palace life and the weight of the king's attention, but also a place to keep the things he'd picked up on his travels. And no wonder it felt familiar to Lila as well. After all, nearly a decade ago, Lila had lived in a room on this very spot, albeit in another world. The setting sun stood in the same place as the stone's throw in grey London and the scorched bone in white London. Fixed points. That's how Kel had always thought of them. Those rare places where the worlds perfectly lined up so that what existed physically in one also existed in another. as if called into being by the echo. A bridge at the same bend in the river, a well on the same hill, a tavern on the same corner. In those places, the walls between the worlds were thin. At least they had always felt that way to him. And as Cal stood in the center of the floor, he imagined that if he looked up, he would see the pale ribs of the scorched bone, that if he took a step, the boards would groan over Ned Tuttle's head. Imagined he could feel those other places, the rain beyond the windows, the chill beneath the door, the shadow of something at the edge of his senses. Cal shivered, sure that he could feel. A latch scraped free, dragging his attention back into the little room. Lila had flung the window open. Beyond the peaked rooftops and carriage-filled roads, the aisle's red glow reflected up against the low clouds as day faded into night. Somewhere in the port, the gray Baron rocked in the gentle tide, tethered in its berth. Kel fell back into the bed, wincing as his body struck the stiff pallet. And to think, he muttered, we choose this over a palace. Lila rested her boot on the wooden chest. You could stay in a palace. I could, he said, and then tucking his hand behind his head. You could stay on the ship. I could, she said. So why don't you? Lila looked up at the ceiling, and he thought she would tell her the truth. She would tell the truth, and then spill the words she hated to say, the ones he needed to hear, that her place was with him as his was with her. But she only shrugged and said, I can't stand to be on a stationary ship, chained like a beast to the dock. Makes me feel trapped. She turned toward the bed, cocking her head as her gaze raked over him. That reminds me, she said, of the night we met. Do you remember? When you robbed me and then used the stolen magic to conjure a double who tried to kill you? Kel crossed his ankles. How could I forget? She waved her hand. I meant after the robbery and before the spell, when I bound you to a bed. A glint in her eyes. Just like this one. Lila don't, he said. But it was too late. The wood was already peeling away from the frame. He tried to sit up, but it wrapped around his wrists like fingers and forced him back against the narrow cot. Oh shit. Hey, yo, we're getting started with this? Okay. Lila Bard smiled and sank onto the edge of the bed. Let me go, warned Kel, but her hand settled on his chest. The gesture firm, fingers splayed, and as if laying claim to the body beneath. She met his gaze. He couldn't believe he'd ever thought those eyes a matching set. One was vivid, alive, the other flat. The difference between an open window and a locked door. She leaned down until her hair graced his cheek, until her mouth hovered over his. His chest rose and fell beneath her palm. Let me go, he said again, his voice dropping low. And this time she did. He reached up, but then the binds crumbled from his wrists. But when the binds crumbled from his wrist, Kel didn't pull away. He reached up, threading his fingers through her hair. Why didn't you stay on the ship? He asked again. Because now and then, it was not enough to dance around the truth. He wanted to hear her say it. Even if she did not wear the ring, he wanted to know that she chose to be here with him. Lila held his gaze so long he could have counted the shards of light in her good eye. And then, at last, almost grudgingly, she said, because the bed would feel empty without you in it. Kel felt his mouth tug into a smile, but before he could savor the words, she was up again and across the narrow room, a knife in one hand and a slip of paper in the other. "Get changed," she said. "I thought Kay would be welcome at court." Kel rolled up to his feet. He went to the basin and filled it from a pitcher. The water came out warm, thanks to a spell etched into the spout. And Kel washed his face and ran a wet hand through his copper hair. He smelled strongly of salt and sea, and had no doubt Rye would comment on it. He shrugged out of his coat and turned it inside out, from left to right, and so Kay's black mantle fell away, replaced by one Kel hadn't worn in months. An elegant red coat, gold buttons running down the front. The edges were trimmed in gold thread, and the inside was lined with gold silk, and the whole thing smelled of palace candles and sweet floral soap. It was a coat that belonged to Kel Maresh, famed Antari, Prince of Arnes, brother to the king. It was a coat that no longer felt like it fit. Technically, of course, it always would. Every one of the coat's many sides were perfectly tailored to his body. It was in the magic threaded through the garment so that even when Kel's body broadened at sea, new muscles winding over lean limbs thanks to hours of training with his swords, the coat had let itself out across the back and drawn in at the waist, shaping itself easily to his new form. And yet, as the crimson mantle settled on Kel's shoulders, it felt all wrong. He felt wrong within it. In the mirror over the basin, a ghost stared back. Eyes mismatched and haunted, jaw hardened and cheeks hollowed. A single pale streak like a scar through his copper hair. Across the room, Lila drove the dagger she was holding into the wall, pinning the slip of paper there. On it was a symbol, one of the first he'd ever done, a simple circle cut through by a cross. A shortcut. Antari magic could take a person to the same place in different worlds, or different places in the same one, but the latter required a marker. "Remind me again," said Lila, "why we couldn't use your brother's ring?" "A marker or a token. The first would take you to a place, the other to a person." "Because," said Kel, "I know better than to walk in on Rye unannounced." It had been nearly a year since their last visit, and they'd made the mistake that time of traveling directly to the king. They had ended up standing in his private chambers, and Kel had seen far more of Alucard Emery than he'd ever wanted to. Lila shrugged and set to work, drawing her thumb along the knife's edge, just deep enough to cut. She used the blood to copy the symbol onto the wall, but he could tell her mind was elsewhere. "Still thinking of the night we met?" He'd been joking, but she didn't laugh. "I think about it often," she said, as her touch whispered against the wall. "When Holland found me, you already had the stone. There was no reason for you to come back." "It wasn't your fight," said Kel. "He was using you to get to me." "Still," she said, "it only worked because you let it." "Yes, I did. And then, good thing you came back for me too." Lila tilted her head, examining her work. "Indeed." He paused, leaning on the basin. It must be the room or the red light of the aisle, but he was feeling nostalgic. You get wall of compliments like that. Welcome back. No, I was also doing karaoke. I was singing one song, so they were cheering for that. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice little stroll back home. Yeah, there will be more later. Don't worry. Why did you? Well, I had so much fun with Holland the first time. I thought... Lila. She tucked the knife from the wall. I suppose I owed you. I got away that night because you took my place. I had lost a fight. You know how I hate losing. Turns out I hate it even more when someone else is losing for me. Now, she said, glancing over her shoulder. Are you ready? No. And Lila smiled. Good. He joined her at the wall. She tugged at the collar of his coat and then reached up and ruffled his copper hair so it fell in messy curls around his face. Then she took his hand and placed her other on the symbol. As Tasken, the world didn't tear open. It simply fell away. It didn't hurt, not as it did when Kel performed the spell himself. But it felt wrong, as if he were a passenger dragged along in the wake of someone else's magic. Then, the world took shape again, and the setting sun was gone, replaced by the royal palace. Kel reached out and steadied himself against the tapestried wall, waiting for the shallow wave of dizziness to pass before he followed Lila out of the alcove and into his royal chambers. He looked around at the bed heaped high with pillows, the golden tray balanced on the sofa's edge, and the balcony giving way to crimson dusk. Home. The word rose up like bile, and he forced it down. This room belonged to a different Kel, the one whose coat no longer fit. The one who had sat at a gilded table downstairs trying to teach Rai magic. The one for whom it came so easily as air. And standing there, amid the memories, he flinched because of how badly he wanted to be that Kel again. To have that life back. But it was gone. He had become someone else. By necessity, not choice. And yet, this place called him back. Wrapped its arms around him in a strange embrace and made promises it couldn't keep. Kel went to bed, ran a hand over the silk pillows. It had been nearly a year since he'd last set foot in this room, and yet it looked as though he'd only just left. The hearth was clean and waiting to be lit. Books sat exactly where he'd left them, their covers free of dust. A pitcher of clean water waited by a marble basin. He imagined Rai giving the orders, imagined servants drawing the curtains back each day and returning them each night, going through the motions as if his brother might arrive at any moment. Kel heard the bedroom door swing open and turned in time to see Lila vanish into the hall, followed moments later by the sound of armor as bodies scrambled into motion. Sankt, he muttered, hurrying after. He reached the hall and found 3 soldiers squaring off, blocking Lila's way. At the sight of Kel, they dropped their swords and sank into a bow, 3 plated knees striking the floor like bells. Well, that's just rude, muttered Lila, crossing her arms. Mas Fares, said the oldest guard without looking up. Welcome back, added the second, who looked to be his age. The youngest of the 3 had clearly never seen Kelmaresh in the flesh, because he paled, and instead of bowing his head, looked straight at Kel's eyes, his expression a rigid mix of awe and fear. Aven, the young guard whispered under his breath, a blessing that might as well have been a curse. Kel gestured for them all to rise and said, Where's the king? In his rooms, said the oldest, before turning to Lila. Apologies, Mazarna, he added as they stood aside, and Kel could almost hear Lila's teeth clenching at the term, my lady. The lights in the hall flared brighter. Kel made it to the door first, knocking before Lila could barge in. Moments later, it swung open, and there stood Alucard Emery, slouched like a cat in the doorway, shirt open and brassy hair hanging loose around his face. His dark blue eyes raked over Kel, and his mouth twitched into an arrogant smirk. I didn't order this, he called to the guards over Kel's shoulder. Send it back. Kel scowled, and it was a good thing then that magic no longer rushed to meet his mood. Instead, his hand drifted to the blade at his hip as Alucard looked at Lila, the smirk blooming into a genuine smile. Bard, you can come in. And then Rai was there, pushing his lover aside and flinging his arms around Kel's shoulder. Brother, said Rai, holding him tight. And unlike the coat and all the other trappings of Kel's old life, this one at least still fit. That was part 1. Part 2. Rai Maresh was on top of the world. At least that's how it felt. In truth, he was perched on the sloping roof over his rooms, one leg drawn up, a bottle of silver wine balanced on his knees, and his brother at his side. If he leaned forward far enough to look down over the edge, he'd be able to see his balcony below, the light spilling out his bedroom doors. If he looked straight out, he could see the entire city, a sprawling sea of glass and wood and stone divided by the brilliant crimson light of the Isle. And if he looked up, he saw only sky, a low cloud stained red, or the orb of the moon, or, on a dark night, the scattered light of stars. Ask anyone in London and they would tell you the best views of the city were those that looked into the Arking Palace. That was because they would never see this one. A spire rose into a gleaming golden peak at his back, and beneath him, the roof splayed out like the bottom of a too long cloak. It sloped, but gently. A bottle might roll off, but a body wouldn't, and was wide enough for 2 grown men to stretch out side by side without their heads touching the spire or their heels grazing air. One night, when Rai had been 11 or 12, he'd persuaded Kel to modify his balcony's wall, to draw grips out of the stone, handholds that would be hidden by the ivy that flowered on the wall. And after that, this spot became their secret, their hidden escape. One night, or so they thought, until Maxime Maresh's voice boomed up from the balcony one night, promising that if the brothers valued their heads, they would climb down at once. I told you it was a bad idea, Kellett murmured after, cheeks still burning from the king's rebuke. Then why did you come? Riot shot back. To make sure you didn't break your neck. You could have stopped me, he'd said. Kellett looked at him with bald surprise. Have you met you? But Rai knew that secretly his brother liked the rooftop hideaway as much as he did. He saw the way that Kel's shoulders loosened and his hands relaxed whenever they were up there, the constant frown softening to something thoughtful. He glanced at Kel now and was surprised to find his brother staring back. Where's La? He asked, slipping into Arnesian. They'd always spoken it when they were alone, to keep their tongues fluent, their accents smooth. At least that had been Rai's reason. Kel, he knew, preferred the common tongue. Nazir, said his brother, shaking his head. Nothing. It's just you look well. Of course I do, quipped Rai, adding, so do you. Kel snorted. Liar. Was it a lie? Rai didn't know. He studied his brother. He had always been able to read Kel, but he was starting to wonder if it was just that. Growing up, Kel had always allowed himself to be read, but in their years apart, he'd changed. His face, once a pane of glass, now turned into the light bounced off instead of passing through. There was a coiled confidence in the way he held himself, even leaning back on one elbow, an edge that belonged more to a pirate than a prince. Not Kel, But Kay, as if he had to bury his past, their past, to live as he did now. He'd managed to put on weight, his shoulders broadened from the months at sea, his pale skin, which showed at his open collar and his wrists, had become a tapestry of scars. Rai had felt every one through his body, though his body never held the marks for more than a day or two. But those scars were nothing against the deeper wound. Even in the dark, Rai could see the bruises beneath Kel's eyes, the long-term toll of so much suffering. And he knew better than to ask, but he must have been drunker than he thought, because the words came out anyway. What does it feel like? Kel must have been drunker than he seemed, because he answered honestly. Feels like my heart is breaking in my chest, like I'm coming undone. Rai looked down at the bottle. Take it from you if I could. I know. It isn't right, he muttered. We are bound together. Everything that hurts you should hurt me. The pain lives somewhere else, said Kel. I wouldn't wish it on you. Besides, he added with a grim smile, someone once told me that the pain is a reminder that we are alive. Rai shook his head at the memory of those words, spoken at a time when he was trying to convince himself. Sounds like a fool. Or an optimist. An arrogant prince, said Rai. Don't sell yourself short, said Kel with a smirk. You were also stubborn and vexing. Rai felt the laughter bubble up in his chest, and with it, the air between them loosened. Well, said Kel, lifting the bottle of summer wine to his lips, what have I missed? And so they traded stories of the Queen's inventions and the Grey Baron, and of Lila and Alucard. Kel regaled Rai with tales of life at sea, and Rai told him of Ren's animal menagerie, and Kel smiled, and Rai laughed. And for a little while at least, it was easy to ignore the things they left unsaid. For a little while at least, Kay was gone, and so was the king, and the two brothers drank and spoke of everything and nothing. Lila Bart stood over the world. She ran her fingers down the coast of Arness, skated her nails across the sea, splayed her hand over London, the tiny points of the palace spire pricking her palm. The model was massive, the land carved from a block of marble, the water made of stained glass. It was a wondrous thing. Cities and port towns sculpted from colored stone, tiny boats floated on panes of blue or sat like matchsticks in their ports, and the glass of the Isle even turned red as it wound its way upriver from Tanek into London. Lila took up a miniature ship and balanced it on the end of her finger, as across the room Alucard drew two short glasses from a gilded cabinet, along with a bottle of wine. The chamber was nearly as large as the king's, or Kel's, but where theirs were pale marble interrupted by gold silk and polished wood, Alucard's retained the spirit of the Night Spire, dark-walled and cluttered with finery. There was no bed, no need, she supposed, but there was a large wooden desk, like the one he'd left on the captain's quarters of his ship, now hers. Only the ceiling belonged to the palace. Skeins of fabric billowed high overhead, unraveling into a gossamer sky, as they did in every chamber. Only it was not sunrise like Rai's, or dusk like Kel's, but the kind of night you found on open water, the blue almost black, the clouds lit by the moon. I thought you didn't miss your life at sea, she mused, setting the tiny ship down in a port. It's not that I don't miss it, explained Alucard, pouring the wine. I simply found something worth staying put for. He joined her at the model's edge and handed her a glass. Compliments of the royal cellar. The wine inside was the color of pearls and littered with little flecks of light. And when Lila drank, it tasted like moonlight. If moonlight could get you drunk. She held the glass up, studying the tiny bubbles that rose to the top. Tell me, said Alucard, rounding the model, stopping on the other side of so the Empire lay between them. What brings the captain back to London? Oh, you didn't hear? I need a ship. The color drained from his face. What happened to the spire? You mean the Baron? He shrugged. I'm afraid I sunk it. He choked on his wine, looking at her in horror. You didn't. She shrugged, said nothing. The silence drew thick enough to cut, until at last she cut him free. Her lips twitched, and Alucard collapsed back into the chair, the air rushing from his lungs. You're not funny, he muttered. Why have you come back then? Planning to go abroad? He wasn't referring to Faro or Vesk. He knew that whenever Lila returned to this London, she made a point of visiting the others. The first time she went abroad, as Alucard put it, it was only because Kel had asked her to. It was in those early months when he still thought his magic simply needed time to rest. She had gone in his stead, the last Antari with working power. First to Grey London to make sure Osauron's remains were still secure in the cellar of the 5 Points. They were. And then to White London to see what had grown in Holland's wake. Imagine her surprise to discover, of all things, a child queen. As far as Kel knew, those had been her last excursions. But they weren't. Over the last 7 years, Lila had gone back again and again, despite having little love for one world and a wealth of loathing at the other. Call it curiosity, call it a desire to stretch her legs, call it 20-something years of living on guard, but Lila couldn't seem to choose ignorance, didn't believe it would ever equal bliss. She'd only confided in Alucard when one day he'd broached the subject himself, asking if she could keep an eye on the other worlds. Arness had enough enemies in its own, he'd said. The last thing it needed was another knocking at the doors. And now Lila shook her head. If you're not here for other worlds, he said, then what? Lila looked down into her glass. Fair wine and decent company. She looked down into her glass. Oh, I knew it, said her old captain with a grin. I'm far more fun than Kel. Without a doubt, she said, but the humor was bleeding already from her voice. Alucard leaned forward, bracing himself against the model cliffs. What is it? Lila drained her glass and set it down on a stretch of open sea. Have you ever heard of a chrysalis? The look on his face said he didn't. He hadn't. So she told him of Maris and the thieves who made it aboard the ship, of the 2 who died and the 1 who got away, and the price that went with him. And Alucard listened, eyes storm dark, chin resting on his palm until she was done. And you think this thief was bound for London? Lila chewed her cheek. He was branded beneath his clothes. Can you guess the mark? She fluttered her fingers, and Alucard let out an oath. A hand. She nodded. Since they are intent on tearing down the throne, London seemed like the most likely place to start. She rose and rounded the model. I don't suppose you found them yet? Alucard shook his head. And if they have a Persalis, it will only make it harder. According to Maurice, it was damaged in the taking. As if damaged things could not be fixed, as if damage did not still mean dangerous. Alucard said. Alucard said nothing. His expression clouded with worry. Lila knew those thoughts. She'd had them too. A weapon that could cut through space, the way Antari did. Only this door could be held open and let 100 killers through. She reached out and rested a finger on one of the palace spires, and the tip, tip sharp enough to prick. Oh God. The palace is still warded, yes? It is, he said. But I don't know if this wards would hold against the door made inside the walls. According to Maurice, she said, there's a ring-shaped key at the core of the Persalis. Something that has to be placed to show the door exactly where to open. If Alucard took heart from that news, he didn't show it. He didn't even seem to be listening. I should have found him by now, he muttered. I have eyes still all over the city. And now you have mine too, she said, starting toward the door. He looked up. Where are you going? To put them to good use. And that's the end of part 2. Time for part 3. The last thief woke up to the smell of something burning. He didn't remember getting back to the room he'd rented, didn't remember collapsing, fully dressed onto the bed, didn't remember sinking through delirium into the dream. That beautiful dream. In it, he'd gone home and his father hadn't been mad, had simply folded him into his strong arms and agreed that youth was full of folly, said that he was forgiven, that he was and would always be the merchant's son. And it was going so well until the world shuddered back and he was dragged into the waking by the acrid scent of smoke. His mouth tasted like ash and there was a horrible heat beneath his skin. And he had the disconcerting sense that he was burning alive, being eaten from the inside out by some unseen flame. And that, he thought, must be the source of the smell, until he heard voices, low and muttering, and accompanied by the all-too-real crackle of flame chewing through the wood. He dragged his eye open, wishing still that he was somewhere else, and saw that he wasn't alone, and his table was on fire. It wasn't a large fire, not yet, contained to the surface of the table, but a block of a man with a lank, pale hair and a face covered in scars was slowly feeding the merchant's son few possessions to the hungry flame. See, said the stranger, crunching the world between his teeth. Told you that would wake him up. A knife would have been faster, said the second voice. It came from the woman who was balanced on the back of his chair, her hair shaved short on the sides and braided long on the top. She wore a metal bracer on one forearm, and it caught the light of the glowing flame, growing blaze. Left your door open, she said. Someone could walk right in. Of course, someone had. He didn't know their names, but he knew what they were and who they worked for. He'd seen them there, lurking like shadows against the wall on the night he had been given his mission. Now, the woman tapped her fingers absently against the bracer, and as she did, the metal rippled like the surface of a pond. Across the room, the pale-haired man tossed a shoe into the fire, which bellowed with unhappy smoke. The merchant's son tried to rise from his bed only to feel his body refuse, his limbs leaden. Put it out, he croaked, wincing as the words raked his burning throat. The man raised a scarred brow and tossed the other shoe in. "We waited," said the woman, unbothered by the growing flame. "Down at the docks, you three were supposed to come to us, but you didn't. We know because we had to wait." "A nice night for waiting," muttered the man, who was now tearing the pages from a journal. "Please stop," said the merchant's son, head swimming as he forced himself to sit up. He tried to stand, but the bed was no longer a bed, but a boat at sea, rocking beneath him. He sank down again, fought back the urge to retch. "I hate waiting," continued the woman. "It's boring as shit. I have to look at Callan, and I have to look at Callan there, which is punishment enough. So I say to him, let's go find them. And turns out the other two never made it back, and you're here, having a nap." "You ask me, Bax," said Callan. "That's pretty inconsiderate." The woman, Bex, stared at the man, eyes wide, and he frowned. "What?" "Honestly didn't think you knew any words that big." Callan turned on her, fists clenched, and for a second he thought the two might kill each other instead of him. But she waved him away, her eyes still on the merchant's son. They were that flat gray of unpolished steel. "Where is it?" she asked. He didn't answer. She leaned forward. "You came all the way back to London," she said, "so you must have it." "I don't." He tried, and her expression darkened. "Wrong answer." "No, He started again, but his stomach heaved and bile rose in his throat. He retched over the side of the bed. Whatever came up left his mouth tasting like ash and rot. He swallowed. "I don't have it," he managed, "but I did, and I will. It got broken back on the ship, so I took it somewhere to get it fixed. You have to bring it to me. I kept the key." He clawed at his pockets, searching for the metal ring, but it wasn't there. It should have been. It had been. Panic rolled through him, but he couldn't think, not with the sickness and the fever and the fire, which was spreading now, licking up on one wall, smoke clouding the ceiling. He coughed, searching for something, anything. All he found was a little black ticket with the gold H printed on one side and the number on the other. He held it out, hoping it would be enough. The woman sat forward and plucked it from his shaking fingers. Well, Bex," said Callan as he splashed the oil from a lantern into the glowing blaze. "What do you think?" "I think this is a fucking mess," she said, pocketing the ticket and getting to her feet. She turned toward the door. "And you can have him." The merchant's son squeezed his eyes shut. He didn't want to be a hero anymore. He didn't want to be a hand. He just wanted to go home. "Nah," said the man. "Waste of a good weapon." "Since when do you have standards?" Black smoke plumed across the ceiling, and the two strangers chatted on about who was going to kill him. The man drew a coin and told the woman to call it. He won, and she rolled her eyes, and the merchant's son decided that he must be still asleep. This was all a horrible dream. He would wake up back at sea, sailing for the floating market, or in the hull of a docked ship, in bed with a beautiful woman, their limbs still tangled, her fingers running through his hair. He must have drifted off. But he'd wake up. The merchant's son didn't realize he was smiling until Bex shot him a strange look. "What are you grinning at?" she said, as she turned her hand up and the metal unfolded from her skin, reforming into a shining spike. "I'm still asleep," he said, closing his eyes, sinking back against the pillow. Her voice, when it reached him, was soft and far away. "Sure you are," it said, and then he heard the metal whistle through the air and felt the brief, cold kiss of it against his throat. He never woke up. What? Nah. Ain't no way they just killed the person that got them the thing they wanted. That's crazy. Okay. Part 4. There was a side to Kel few people ever saw. It was like one of his coats, not the red one or the black one or any of the other sides he favored, but a shiny frock kept tucked away beneath so many turns that no one ever found it. Except for Rai. It had always been a challenge, unwinding his brother. Before, that was how Rai thought of 21 years of life, as simply before. Before Black London leaked into the world, before his parents died, before he became king. Before. He would drag Kel out into the city under cover of night in common clothes and ply him with drink until he found that rare and precious side. Until he stopped fighting so hard to hold on and loosened his grip on the world. Until he let go. When that happened, the lines around Kel's eyes, lines that had nothing to do with age, lines he'd had since he was 5, would soften. Then he would smile and laugh, and Rai would marvel at this other version of his brother and mourn the fact that it was so hard to draw him out. Now, on the roof, that side was shining through. The bottle in Rai's hand was long empty, and only a finger sloshed in the bottom of Kel's. And though pain had always traveled louder than pleasure, Date drunk enough that one's lightheadedness added to the others. Kel's blue eye was bright, his free hand gesturing broadly as he recounted a story involving Lila Bard and a stolen ship that turned out to be carrying nothing but chickens. Which was made funnier by the fact that the Arnesian word for chicken, Korsa, was so close to the word for swords, Orsa. The only reason Bard had wanted a board in the first place. You should have seen her face, said Kel. He straightened just a little, injecting a Lila-esque edge in his voice. What the fuck am I supposed to do with these? Kel shook his head, remembering. Vasri wanted to set them free. He even opened the crate, tried to shoo them over the side before he realized. Chickens can't fly, said Rai. No, they cannot, said Kel. They met each other's eyes, and laughter bubbled up between them. And after a moment, Rai said, "The pirate life clearly suits you." Kel raised a brow. "Excuse me?" he said with feigned indignance. "I'm a privateer." And it was such an eerily perfect impression of Alucard, from the quirk of his mouth to the lift of his chin and the tone of his voice, that Rai lost the last dregs of his composure and threw back his head and laughed. And then he was on his back, the night sky sliding in and out of focus. "I'm gonna roll off," he said, grasping for breath. "Catch you," said Kel, without so much as a pause. Rai's laughter died away. "I know." Kel lay down beside him, looking up. Silence settled over them again, but it was like a silk sheet on a summer night, cool and welcome. And as his heart slowed in his chest, Rai realized he was happy. For a breath, it was the loudest thing. Then the guilt rushed in. How could he be happy when the Empire stood on a knife's edge and the specter of violence hung over his head? How, when his parents were gone and his brother was broken? And then, right on the heels of that guilt, fear. Fear, not for his own life. That was an abstract thing, death impossible and pain endurable, but the lives of those he loved. Fear that he could not shelter their flames as Kel had sheltered his. Fear that beat inside his chest, wrapped itself around his heart and lungs until he could not breathe. Fear that fed on his happiness grew stronger because of it. And that was the madness, the cruelty, that life was fragile and he had so much to love and spent all his time mourning the loss before he suffered it. Love and loss, he murmured. Like a ship in the sea, finished Kel. It was one of Tieren's favorite sayings. The thought of the Evanescent made Rye's eyes burn. Above, the moon was almost full, and when his vision blurred, it looked like one of the paper lamps they launched during Sail Vera Noche. Rye smiled. Do you remember the year we hauled all those lanterns up here? Kel had lit the wicks and Rye had set them free, and together they had watched the lights float away like newborn stars. Beside him, Kel lurched upright. Sankt, he hissed. I'm such a fool. Asked Rye sleepily. I saw them. In the hold of the ship, I saw them. Couldn't for the life of me remember what they were for. I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about, said Rye, a whine weighing down his limbs in a pleasant way. He wanted to hold on to that feeling, but the furrow was back in Kel's brow, and he seemed suddenly, painfully sober. We raided a Vescan smuggler. They had weapons and bottles of Tark. I do love Tark, and a crate with white lanterns, the kind we use on the long dark night. Kel's head fell into his hands. I should have thought to take one, but we were ambushed. Is it so strange? Asked Rye. Smugglers trade in whatever they can sell, and the lanterns are always in demand. Besides, every crate will be searched when it docks for the festival. Kel stared at him, aghast. You can't intend to celebrate this year. Rye stared back. Of course I do, he said defensively. You are on the brink of war at Vesk, and a group of faceless rebels is plotting to overthrow you. Oh, really? Said Rye, sitting up. I had no idea. And you would hand them the perfect chance, a night when the city is overrun with strangers and magic, and you are on display. I have to do it. Don't be a fool, snapped Kel. You don't have enough guards, and even if you did, you could not predict where an attack. Kel, he said, the name cutting through the air. I have to. Rye didn't look at his brother when he said it, but he could feel the weight of his gaze. A long moment passed. Then, a sharp intake of breath. Tell me you aren't planning to use this to draw out the hand. Kel rolled the empty wine bottle between his palms. Fine, I won't. He did not say that it had crossed his mind, did not say that he had spent the last few months as a prisoner in his own palace, caged by other people's threats and fears, did not say that he was sick of feeling terrified and powerless. 300 years, he said instead. This winter marks 300 years since the darkness was defeated. By my family, Marash. He met Kel's gaze. How will it look if I don't? Kel's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Rai stared out at the sprawl of the city, bathed in crimson, the buildings jewel lit in the dark. I am the king, he said quietly. There will always be someone trying to kill me. Of course, I know it's not me. I'm just a crown, a name, a mantle, and a fancy chair. But I admit it's hard not to take it personally, especially after the shadows. The Shadows. Not a terribly inventive name for a rebellion, but then the Hand wasn't much better. He'd been 12 when the Shadows abducted him from the palace grounds, left him bleeding to death in the bottom of a boat. If Kel hadn't found him, but of course he had. I don't even know why they did it. Taxes, I think, said Kel, sipping his wine. Rai sighed. How horribly mundane. But then, what drove the Hand? I've wondered, if it could be them. The Shadows, going by a different name? It's not, said Kel stiffly. How do you know? Because I killed them all. Rai said nothing. He hadn't known, but he'd suspected. Not because the Shadows had suddenly vanished, though they had. No, there's been a moment the night after the attack. He'd woken up safe in the palace, buzzing with fear in its aftermath, and gone to find Kel. He'd snuck down the secret passage that joined their rooms, expected to see his brother asleep in bed. Instead, he'd found him sitting in a copper-plated bath, his head tipped back against the rim. His clothes lay piled on the floor, and the only light was the crimson of the aisle spilling in from the balcony. And in that glow, it was hard to tell, but Rai swore that water was red. His brother hadn't hurt him, and Rai had crept back down the hidden hall and into bed. Now, Kel's voice dragged him back to the roof. The long dark night is still weeks away, he said, emptying the bottle. If you insist on celebrating, we better find the Hand. Rai swung his arm out, gesturing at the sprawling city and the untold thousands who filled its buildings and flooded its streets. How hard could it be? Okay, I guess now we're going flashback. Oh, no. Okay, we're jumping to Lila, I guess. Their footsteps echoed on the stairs. I don't suppose you could ask every citizen to strip, mused Lila, so you can search their skin for brands. The guards bowed as she and Alucard passed. Not as deeply as to Kel, she noticed, but at least none pulled a weapon on her. And drive 100 more to their cause? Alucard shook his head. I think not. They have a leader, she said. They must. All hands need arms. All arms need a head. Do you have no suspicions? I have many. That is all they are. Care to share your strongest angle? That for all their talk, they're not Anesian at all. Lila's steps didn't slow. It had occurred to her already, of course. You think they're being funded by a foreign power? The best war is the one where your enemy fights with itself. They walked in silence to the bottom of the stairs. There, Lila rounded on him. Don't make the Hand more than they are. They're still bodies, and bodies can be found. They can be stopped. Alucard gave a thoughtful hum. In this light, he didn't just look tired, he looked ill, hollowed out, drawn for far past taut, a bowstring on the edge of breaking. If you were wound any tighter, you would snap, she said. When's the last time you slept? Lately, I found it hard to rest. He flashed his teeth, more a grimace than a grin. Can't imagine why. Lila flicked her fingers, felt the cool steel of a blade skate into her palm. I could try to kill you if you like. Alucard managed a thin, startled laugh. And that would help me how? She shrugged. It helps get the blood flowing, she said. How long has it been since you had a proper fight? Spar with the soldiers every day, he said, a little indignant. And if that is the only way you unwind before bed, I pity Kel. He started down the hall again, and Lila fell and stepped beside him, the knife vanishing back into her sleeve. I suppose there are other ways to burn off energy. Alucard raised a brow. Is that an offer? Sadly, I have no desire to bed you, but I'm sure the king would happily oblige if... Just then, a small shape darted out from under a chair into their path, and Lila stopped and looked down. It was, of all things, a rabbit, floppy and golden-hued, with large black eyes and a twitching nose. Looks like dinner got out of the kitchen, she said, but Alucard only sighed and hoisted the little beast under one arm. Miros, he said grimly. And where there's a pet, there is... As if on cue, a child came bounding around the corner singing a bedtime song. Gentle, gentle hissed the snake, she sang, dancing between the patterned lines of the lush hall rug. Quiet, quiet, barked the dog. Careful, careful, purred the cat, right before it pounced. On these last words, she leapt as far as she could, landing in a crouch on one of the rug's golden circles, right in front of them. Ren had grown since Lila last saw her, morphed from a stumbling toddler into a small girl with a pointed chin and a mop of black curls. Perhaps, thought Lila, the child wouldn't remember her. After all, a year was a long time when you'd only lived 4. But Ren straightened and looked up, and her face bloomed in delight. Hello, Delilah Bard. Hello, Ren Maresh, she said evenly. Lila did not like children. She had decided long ago that Rai's daughter would be no exception. She would not coddle the girl, would not fawn, would not make her words small and lace her voice with syrup and indulge a child's every whim. Unfortunately, Ren Maresh didn't just like Lila, she adored her. And nothing Lila did seem to dampen that joy. The child was always so damned happy to see her. We talked about this, Ren, said Alucard, holding out the rabbit. Put him away. Ren took the pet and then turned and promptly set it down again, facing the other direction, watching as it bounced away down the hall. Alucard tipped his head back and sighed, the long, suffering sound of a parent who couldn't be bothered. Issa had wandered into the hall at some point too, and the cat sat on a cushion, white tail flicking as the rabbit passed, its lavender eyes hanging on the captain who'd usurped its ship. Lila stared back at the beast until a small voice sang her name again. Delilah, said Ren, beckoning, and Lila sighed and knelt so she was eye to eye with the little girl. His eyes, like Rai's, burned gold inside their halo of black lashes. Ren simply stared at her, waiting, and Lila got impatient. What do you want? She asked. Ren leaned in and cupped her hands around her mouth and whispered, "Do the trick!" Lila arched a brow. That was the problem with children. If you did a thing once, you had to be willing to do it again. And again, and again. Please, added the princess as an afterthought. Lila folded her arms. What will you give me? Come on, Bart, chided Alucard. What? She said as the girl patted her pajama pockets. Nothing is free, and your child is a little hoarder. Sure enough, Ren shoved a little hand deep into one pocket and came out with a lin, a ruby earring, a figurine of a palace guard, and a single black feather. Lila studied the hall as a graying woman appeared, the rabbit thrust under one arm. "There you are," she said, addressing Ren. She shot an apologetic glance at Alucard. "I turned my back just for a moment." She was coming forward, empty arm out, as if she meant to sweep the child up as she had the pet. But Lila held out her hand. "Wait," she said. "We're in the middle of a deal." She considered the contents of the child's pockets. "Which is your favorite?" Ren pointed at the onyx feather. "It fell off," she explained, very somber, in case anyone thought she'd come into possession of it by less moral means. Lila took the feather and slipped it into her coat. Then she looked into the hall, searching for a flower vase or pitcher or some other source of water. Finding none, her attention drifted to Alucard's hands. She'd left her own glass of wine behind, but he'd brought his along, topping it up on his way out, a healthy pour still sloshed inside. "May I?" she asked, and by the time he said no, the contents were already drawing up into the air, a liquid ribbon of silver wine that coiled around her palm. It twitched and spasmed and drew itself into a rabbit. Ren stared up, delighted, and Lila glanced at Alucard, only to see a strange sadness sweep across his face, the far-off look of someone thrown into a memory. Then he blinked and looked at her, and it was gone. The child clapped, delighted, and reached for the watery shape, but it leapt away, escaping from Lila's right hand into her left, a few wayward drops of wine dripping to the carpet in its wake. It was hard to shape an element, harder still to make it move like this with any semblance of life. "You know," she said as the rabbit bounded through the air over her head, "I learned this from Alucard. 7 years ago in the belly of the Baron when it was still the Spire, and he was the captain. Alucard Emery had agreed to teach her magic, taught her to focus her mind, to teach her will to latch her will onto words. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. Of course, he'd known then what Lila had only suspected, that there was more to her than flesh and blood and grit, more to her missing eye. He had that strange gift of sight, had seen the silver in the air around her the day they met, threads glowing with Antari magic. But he taught her all the same, how to hold an element, how to hone it, how to make it hers. Ren's eyes widened, her attention swiveling from the watery rabbit to her father. "Luca?" "Yes, Luca," said Lila, shifting the animal from hand to hand like a hot stone. "And he can do this trick anytime you like." Alucard shot Lila a look over his daughter's head. "Thanks," he mouthed, clearly annoyed. She just shrugged. It served him right for having a kid. She could have stopped there, should have stopped there, handed off the trick and freed herself from Ren's attention. But for some reason, she didn't. For some reason, she knelt, and so they were eye to eye again, and cupped her hand beneath the magic. Lila's fingers twitched, and the rabbit froze mid-air, crystals of frost tracing its silver skin, and fell into her waiting palm. But she wasn't done. "You know," she said, dropping her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "Luca can do many things, but he can't do this." Her grip tightened, not enough to break the little sculpture, just enough to prick her thumb on the frozen tip of the rabbit's ear. She whispered, "Astaro," and the animal in her hand turned from ice to polished stone. Ren's eyes widened, her mouth crackling into a buoyant smile as someone gasped. Mas Aven, said the nursemaid, dropping the real-life rabbit in her arms and sinking into a bow as she realized that Lila had done, what Lila was. The look on the nursemaid's face wasn't fear, but awe. She was clearly one of those people who believed Antari were more than gifted magicians. They were the true avatars of magic, chosen, blessed. Lila knew that Kel hated such displays of worship that they made his skin crawl, but she found it nice now and then to be seen as more instead of less. In another London, the woman might have crossed herself. Here, she touched her lips, whispered something against her fingertips. Sasha, said Alucard gently, would you be so kind? The nursemaid came back to herself. Right, she said, of course. Lila sat the figurine in Ren's outstretched hands, and Sasha hurried forward and lifted the child into her arms. She touched the stone rabbit, running a finger reverently down its back. Right, she said again. Your mother will want you to say goodnight. And that's my cue, said Lila, turning on her heel and heading for the palace doors. Night-night, princess. Night-night, Ren called back as Sasha hauled her off to bed. She's never bowed that deep to me, mused Alucard, trailing to Lila to the doors. Two guards stood waiting there. They each pressed their hands to the wood, and Lila heard the hum of spellwork come to life, the bolts sliding deep within the wood, and then the door fell open, and the cool night air rushed in. She stepped out, then glanced back and saw Alucard framed by the golden light of the hall. You could join me for a drink, she said, knowing the answer before he shook his head. Lila clicked her tongue. Fatherhood has made you a bore. He didn't even pretend to act wounded. His gaze flicked past her to the night-swept city. You're welcome to a carriage. And Lila snorted. How generous. I'll take a brace of guards and a trumpeter too. She spread her arms. After all, why blend in when you can stand out? He offered her a lopsided grin. You get into so much trouble that I sometimes forget you don't like being noticed. She let her arms fall back to her sides. Hard to pick a pocket when they're already staring at your hands. She smiled as she said it, but Alucard picked up on the meaning. His mood darkened. Be careful. I'm always careful, she said. But as she strode down the palace stairs, she found herself humming Ren's little tune. Careful, careful, purred the cat, right before it pounced. And that's the end of part 4. Alright. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. I gotta be right back. And then we're gonna be moving on with part 5. All right, I'm back. Oh my god, we're dropping frames again. Are you kidding me? Oh well. Let's continue on with Pop 5. Actually, let me quickly drink something. All right. Rai hung his crown on an apple branch. The lovely brightness of the silver wine had thinned, leaving only a weary cotton in its wake. He knew better than to drink like this. It was always tipped for his spirits from cheerful to morose. Oddly, Kel swung the other way. He had gone to his room singing a sea shanty. Rai should have gone to bed too, but his bed was empty, save for the sleeping tonic waiting on the table, and he knew what would happen when he drank it. Knew the way the drug would settle over him, his body, his mind. Less like a blanket and more like a pair of hands holding him down until his limbs went heavy and his mind stopped fighting. And then in the morning, his mouth would taste like stale sugar, and Rai would have the unshakable sense that he had forgotten something, even if all he'd forgotten was a dream. He knew, and he wasn't ready, and so he'd swept the crown from the bed and kept walking, let his feet carry him past his rooms and down the stairs out into the palace courtyard. The guards had fallen in behind him, churned up like dust in his wake. But at the doors, he bade them stay. "Your Majesty," he said. "It is not safe," they said. "The courtyard is beyond the palace wards," they said, as if he did not know. He did. He simply did not care. Let his queen bristle, let his lover chide. He did not need to be protected. He was the safest man in all of the world. He was the unkillable king, and he wanted to be alone. So he commanded them to stay put, and they obeyed, stood there bound by the light of the doorway, as if the warning were a cage, and Rai for once, the only one set free. He moved between the trees of the royal orchard, touched an apple, testing to see if it would yield. But the fruit wasn't ready. It clung to the branches, the skin just beginning to turn pink. "Patience," Tieran used to say. "Patience is what makes it sweet." Rai closed his eyes. And then it was no longer fall, but spring. 3 years before, and he was no longer alone, because the Avanescen walked beside him. There was a drag to Tieran's steps, even in the memory, as if the white robe weighed more than he did. Death was coming for him slowly, but coming all the same, winnowing the old priest down like a little more with every step, a little more with every day. When he spoke, his voice was thin, like the wind through a reed. Some people have a talent for hiding their thoughts, Rai-Maresh. You do not. His laugh was soft, an airy whisper. Only his blue eyes retained their sharpness. I can see them hanging like a cloud over your head. Rai tried to speak, only to find his throat going tight. He looked away. A moment later, Tieran stopped walking and rested his hand against a tree, weariness visible in every line of his face. Do you need to sit? Asked Rai, but the Avanescen brushed aside the offer. I fear that if I do, I won't get up. And then, at the look of his horror in his eyes, the whispering laugh. I'm speaking of my legs, not my life, Rai. My joints get stiff. They walked on, and then Tieran said, "It is not a bad word, death. And yet it was heavy enough to stop the king's legs, to pin him to the path." And he swallowed and looked up. The first green buds dotted the trees, and it seems unfair that Tieran should be withering when the rest of the world was starting to bloom. "Are you afraid?" asked Rai. "Afraid?" echoed Tieran. "No, I am sad, I suppose, that it is almost over. There's so much I will miss." And for just a moment, Rai saw the old man's throat bob, his eyes go misty before he pressed ahead. But all things end. That is the nature of the world. Death is essential, a laying down. And I admit, I am looking forward to the rest. "Rest?" echoed Rai. "Is that all there is?" "We are borrowed things," said the priest. "Our bodies decay, and our essence, well, magic is the stream that waters all things. It lends itself to us in life, and in death calls it back. And so the stream appears to rise and fall, but it never loses a single drop." "But what of our minds?" pressed Rai. "Our memories? What of us?" "We are a moment, Your Majesty, and moments pass." It was not enough. Not after all he'd seen, not after everyone he'd lost. "So in death we simply cease to be? We come and go, and then they are nothing?" Rai could hear his voice rising, but Tieran only sighed. Over the years, those sighs had become their own language, and Rai was fluent in them. A single exhale could be exasperated, tired, infinitely patient. This sigh had something of all three. "Just because we do not carry on," said the priest, "doesn't mean we haven't been. We live a life, we leave a legacy. But the river once one way, we are carried on it." By the way, there's a little spelling mistake here in this book where, oh my god, I don't know if I can show it, but it says "set the priest" there. And there's a little Z in the front of it for some reason. "Set the priest." Rai shook his head. "If that were true, I would not be here." "You forget I died," he said. He did not say that in that brief but solid stretch of death. He had felt nothing. Like, he did not say that in that brief but solid stretch of death, he had felt nothing. "I died, and you say that could have been the end, but I came back, which means I was still there. I did not cease to be." "Your death was brief," ventured the priest. "Perhaps you are not yet gone. There is a time, after all, when the flames have gone out, but the fire is not cold." Rai threw up his hands. "You speak as if you do not know." Tieran sighed, and this time there was impatience in it. "I have never pretended to be wise, only old. So no, I do not know, but I believe. I believe we do not linger, nice as that would be. I believe that if we do live on, it is in those we love." There was a word he left unsaid. Only. But if there was nothing beyond the dark, then what of his mother and father? Why couldn't form the words? What of Tieran himself? What of those he'd lost and those he would still lose? Alucard and Nadia and Ren? What would become of all they'd been, all they'd seen and felt and known and loved? How could he carry their hearts in his when he knew he would forget the sound of their voices, the weight of their hands? And one day when Kel died, so did he, what then? After all that bound them, would there truly be no tie beyond the dark? These were the fears that followed him to bed each night, and Tieran looked at him as if every one was written in a cloud around Rai's head. Love and loss, recited the dying priest, but Rai rounded on him and then, have I not lost enough? He snapped. Tieran looked back, a gentle sadness in his eyes. And then he turned and brought his hand to a low branch, running his fingers over the blossom. How lucky we are, he said softly, that after every winter, we are rewarded with a spring. Rai opened his eyes. The orchard was dark. Tieran was gone. He was alone again. And yet something had drawn him out of the reverie. He held his breath and listened until it came again. Footsteps. Not the heavy tread of soldiers' boots, but the lightest whisper, the caress of a leather on stone. Someone trying to be quiet. The king's hand drifted to his pocket and retrieved a small blade he kept there, its surface freshly spelt to incapacitate. He had only to draw blood. Rai pressed his back into the nearest tree and waited, ready to drive the blade into the attacker's side, to cut swift and deep, waited as the steps draw near, until the body was close enough for him to hear its breath, and he rounded the tree and swung the knife. And stopped, the blade an inch from the priest's white robes. And for a moment, even now, his heart quickened, and the thought that if he looked up, he would see Tieran's face. But then he did. And it was no white hair, no blue eyes, no patient smile. They had been replaced by smooth skin and a heart-shaped face, black hair carving a faint widow's peak before running like an ink stain over the pristine robes. The 10th Aven Essen stared at him, amusement spreading like frost across her face. She glanced down at the weapon. Were you expecting someone else? Ezreal, he said, the blade falling to his side. What are you doing here? She spread her hands, white sleeves fluttering. I am the Aven Essen. I know your heart, Mazres. I can feel your mood when it darkens like the wind turning cold. She kept a straight face as she said it, but Rai had learned over the last 3 years that where Tieran had been unrelentingly earnest, Ezreal rarely said what she meant. And sure enough, a moment later her mouth twitched, and she nodded back toward the palace. One of the guards sent for me. It seemed to think you have a death wish. Is it possible to have a death wish, he mused, when you know you cannot die? His smile wavered. It is, she said, if you insist on testing their protection every chance you get. Rai shot a dark look back at the palace doors. He could see the outline of his guards within the light. They shouldn't have summoned you. And yet they did, and I am here, awake and in all my finery. The least you can do is pretend to need my counsel. And so they strolled together beneath the branches until the copse of trees gave way to the stone walk. It circled the courtyard. To his right, the shining palace. To his left, the glowing isle. And Ezreal at his side. What a strange replacement she had been, the young Aven Essen. Ezreal was raven-haired, with brown eyes that changed shade like tea, shifting from pale to dark depending on how long it steeped. She had the air of a girl playing dress-up in someone else's clothes. There was a mischief to her, a coyness to her voice that belonged to the pleasure gardens more than to priesthood. And on top of that, she couldn't be much older than Kel. You're a very young priest, he'd said to her the day she strode into the Rose Hall. But she had simply shrugged and met his gaze. You are a very young king. Perhaps they didn't want to keep replacing your council. Have I not lost enough? Perhaps this was a parting gift from Tierin. If so, it was a welcome one. For even though Rai's heart would always stutter at the sight of those wide robes, and there would always be a moment when he longed to look up and see Tierin's face, it would have been unbearable to find one that held its similar age and lightness. Ezreal tipped her head back and sighed, smiling when her breath came out in a thin plume. The season's turning, she said. A nice reminder, is it? And all things change. Her gaze dropped back to him. What were you thinking of before I interrupted? What happens when we die? Rai waited for her to say what Tierin had said, to feed him the sanctuary lines of currents and streams and sleep. Instead, she said, you want to know what happens after? And then, reading a surprise, oh, I know what I'm supposed to say. That we live and die and that is it. That is what the sanctuary teaches after all, and perhaps it is the truth. The Veskans have priests who claim to speak the language of the dead, and in Faro they make altars to those they've lost. They leave offerings and seek their counsel. They lay out extra plates and leave doors open, even in winter, so that their dead can find shelter. She stopped. As she stopped walking, wide robes settling as she turned to face him. Who is to say what is truth and what is superstition? We choose the stories that bring us comfort. Believe what you want. What do you believe? He asked. Well, the sanctuary says. That isn't what I asked. Ezreal's mouth twitched in a way that said she clearly knew. I believe there are things we know and things we don't. We know that magic flows through everything and that elements can be wielded and made into spells. We know that the world is guided by a natural order and that it demands balance. But beyond that, she shrugged. You yourself are proof that magic still holds mystery. After all, she tapped a finger on his shirt front over his heart and the spellwork that bound his life to Kel's. We are taught the river flows one way, and yet here you are. Her hand vanished back into her robes. A nice reminder that we are only guessing. After that, they walked together side by side, strolling the moonlit orchard until the clouds cleared from his head. And though Rai hadn't called for Ezreal, he was glad that she had come. And that's the end of part 5. On to part 6. Tess couldn't remember the last time she'd slept. A headache had crept through her skull halfway through the first night, fueled by sugar buns and a bitter black tea. It thudded in time with her pulse, but she didn't care. She was lost in her work. The next day, she kept the shop lock tight, ignored the occasional knock at the door, the rattle of the handle, ignored the hunger mounting behind her ribs, and the snarl of her curls, ignored Varese until even the little owl stopped clicking his beak, stopped shifting his talons trying to get her attention. Only his head swiveled now and then. Mismatched pebble eyes watching as she rose and circled the piece, studying it from every side. Cares 10, she whispered to the broken object as she worked. What are you? It was like trying to assemble a puzzle when you didn't know the image. At first, you simply tried to find the pieces that went together, but at some point you started to see it. The picture that existed somewhere between what you had and what you didn't. Cares 10, she said, the words becoming a chant. Halfway through the second day, she'd glimpsed the shape, if not the spell. It was a kind of box, or at least it was contained in one. But as she put it back together, the magic lined up too, until she could finally make out the places it had tangled and torn, and how to mend them. Cares 10, She's asked over and over, until at last her work answered back, told her what it was, what it was meant to be. Her hands froze in mid-air. She finally understood. A thread twisted between her fingers, waiting to be woven through, but Tess sat perfectly still, only her eyes darting over the spell work, reading it again and again to be sure. And she was. Not a box at all, though it was made to look like a box. It looked like one. No, this was a door, or rather a door maker. A shortcut, basically. Something designed to collapse distance to allow a person to move across an unlimited amount of space in a single step, regardless of walls or locks or space, which wasn't forbidden, but it was impossible. Or at least it should be. Tess knew that the Antari could create doors like this, so that meant the magic was there. It existed, but it was a talent only they could use. This device took that power and handled it to anyone. Tess tried to imagine a spell that would give everyone the ability to see and change the threads of power, and shivered at the thought. Some gifts were rare for a reason, and yet someone had found a way to take the rarest magic in the world and put it in a wooden box. A box that sat almost fixed on her table. And Tess couldn't walk away, not now. Her heart began to race, but her hands were steady. Her fingers moved, quickly now, darting like fish between the final threads of the spell as she paired and mended the last strings, the work going faster and faster until it was done. Tess tugged off the blotters and tossed them aside, rubbing the bruised skin around her eyes as she took in the device. It looked so ordinary. Or it would have to an ordinary pair of eyes, but not to her. But to her, it was incredible. A piece of Antari magic translated into an articulated spell. It was an extraordinary piece of craft, unlike anything she'd ever seen. And Tess shoved up from the stool, limbs stiff and aching, body calling out for food and sleep, but she had to know if she'd done it, had to know if it worked. She took up the box and rounded the corner, knelt as she set it gingerly on an empty stretch of floor. Spellwork like this needed a trigger, but the original commands had been damaged beyond use, so she'd written her own using Arnesian and kept it simple. Ero and Fero, open and close. The words sat waiting on her tongue, growing heavier with every passing second until her mouth fell open and the sound tumbled out. Wait, so it goes, if it works, it will send you to the location of the ring that was set in the box. But we also know that the merchant's son that had the ring no longer has the ring. So where the fuck is she gonna end up? The box shivered and strained, and for a second Tess thought it would shatter, thought she may have made a mistake, found two threads wrong among the hundred there. But then it drew itself in like a breath, and the spell took hold. The box unfolded, the inside limed with light, threads that shot out beyond its wooden borders, vaulted up through the air, tracing the outline of a door. The air inside the outline rippled and darkened until the shop vanished, replaced by a curtain of shadow. Beyond the veil, a scene rippled and took shape, unsubstantial, the blurred outline of an empty road, motionless, colorless, still. Tess rose and walked around the door, waiting for something to come out, but nothing did. She reached out and brought her fingers to the door, let them hover there above the darkness. There was a draft, a metallic smell like rust or blood, the bitter edge of frost. How strange, she said, and she must have leaned forward just a little as she spoke, because her fingers touched the veil, and the veil wrapped around her hand and dragged her through. Part 7. The location is just somewhere else. Tess stumbled. She threw out a hand, intending to steady herself on the table. She knew. The weather is so beautiful. I walked to the next subway stop. That's great. I'm happy you're getting in a nice walk. That's great. I hope you can get everything that you want there today, and you can get all your shopping there. She threw out a hand, intending to steady herself on the table she knew was there in Haskins' shop, but it was gone. The shop was gone too. Tess caught her balance, just barely, and saw that she was now standing on the street outside. She looked up, expecting to see the stores that faced her own, but they were all gone, replaced by an unfamiliar stretch of pale stone wall. She shivered, suddenly noticing how cold she was, and remembered the door. Tess spun around, afraid it would be gone, but it was still there, thin as a pane of darkened glass propped upright in the road. Through the doorframe, she could just make out the pale shadow of the shop that she left behind. The box that was not a box on the ground in the center of the threshold. Its magic traced a burning line around its edge, and Tess knelt out and reached out to touch the device. She tried to lift it, but it wouldn't budge. Weighed down as it was by this activated spell, she stood again. Where was she? An alley, one she didn't recognize, though she knew every one of the routes through the shell. Looking around, Tess noticed thin threads of magic that wove through the stone of the wall and shimmered in the sky above, but the light was different than usual. A steep sound echoed around her, steady as a heartbeat, and it took her a moment to realize what it was. A drum. She cocked her head, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. To her right, something moved. Tess jerked around to see an old woman peering out from an alcove. She was dressed strangely, in layers of tattered cloth, her face gaunt, her weathered skin traced with thick black marks. Tattoos. She spoke in a voice as dry and brittle as paper, a question in a language Tess didn't know, which itself was odd. Wait. Is she in White London? I thought the door is only, that box is only able to make you travel in the same London. But this right now just seems like she's in in White London. As a child, her father had forced her to learn all the dialects they spoke in Arnez. She shook her head in reply, and as the woman shuffled forward into the light, Tess recoiled. The threads of the old woman's magic hung in the air like blackened roots, withered and lightless. This wasn't a curse poisoning the flow of power. There was no flow, no movement at all. Magic was ruined, dead. The woman spoke again in its strange tongue, and this time her eyes darted from Tess to the doorway. She clearly saw it too, and back again, her hand drifting up, palm open, gnarled fingers flexing toward the veil. Whatever she was saying, it was no longer a question. The edges were flat, her tone sharpening as she began to repeat the same words over and over again like a demand or a curse. And then she shot forward, a sudden feral burst of speed, and caught Tess's wrist with a bandaged hand, her fingers vising, tight and cold as iron. Tess tore free and scrambled backward, catching her heel on the box and falling back through the open door into the repair shop. The box didn't move, but as soon as Tess hit the familiar ground, The world beyond the curtain vanished behind its shroud, taking the strange alley and the ravaged woman with it. And yet her hoarse voice was still audible, getting louder and closer, and Tess's mind tripped after her body, trying to catch up with the withered, inky hand pierced the veil, reaching toward her. "Pharaoh!" she shouted, and the door came down fast as a falling blade. Something fell with it, bouncing across the floor before coming to a stop several feet away. Tess crept forward, her hand halfway outstretched before she saw what the object was. A single tattooed finger. She yelped and kicked it away, watching in horror as the woman's severed digit rolled beneath the table. Tess sat, chest heaving for several seconds, every foul word she knew in any languages knew now pouring from her lips. Finally, she calmed, her attention going to the place where she'd conjured the door. It was gone, back into its box, but the air where it had been still looked wrong. The burning edge of the doorway lingered, and Tess squeezed her eyes shut, thinking it must be an echo. She saw them sometimes, after working too long, the tendrils of magic branded against her eyelids. But no matter how many times she blinked, the lines in the air remained, like a scar. Her gaze dropped to the doormaker, which now sat unassuming and closed on the floor. Something had gone wrong. The magic in the device was meant to create shortcuts, to collapse the distance between two places, and then Tess realized her mistake. Oh no. So she quote unquote fixed the device, but by fixing it, she made it work differently and basically more powerful? Stupid, 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 she hissed out loud. A door was only a door if it went somewhere. And how could it know where to go? There should have been a terminus, a key, a piece of the device that marked the destination, but there hadn't been. Is this everything? She'd asked as the man with the dying magic had stared at her, and then said, "Everything you need." Everything she needed, perhaps, to repair the doormaker, but not to use it. He'd obviously kept the terminus, and Tess, not understanding what she was fixing, hadn't thought to leave space for it in her repair, or shape a new one. She had just put the spellwork back together without the vital part, mended it as if it were whole, and so instead of creating a door that led somewhere else within this world, she'd made one that carved right through it, into another world entirely. I was correct, she was in fucking White London. This is now an even scarier device, because it makes everybody, like, imagine the people of White London coming into contact with Red London, and the way how savage they are with their magic in White London, and then seeing the flow of magic in Red. Holy shit. Tess drove her fingers into her hair as the force of the error hit her. She knew the history, of course, though it was old enough to have the taste of legend. There had been a pair of drawings in her father's store, the four worlds depicted as books stacked on atop each other, one atop another. In the first drawing, the books burned as if on fire, the bottom one engulfed in a light that stretched up and curled around the pages. The next, and the next, its blaze dimming faintly the farther it reached. In the second image, the bottom book was charred and black, the light replaced by lines of smoke. A single word was printed on the frame below the drawings: ruin. When Tess was little, she used to run her fingers through the air over those drawings, counting up 1, 2, 3 to the book that stood for her world. She never bothered giving the other 3 much thought. What was the point when she would never see them? Worlds you could not touch because ones became ones that lived in stories and somewhere else and nowhere else. But Tess knew. There had been a time when anyone with enough magic could step from one world into the next. There had been a time, but it had ended centuries ago with the fall of Black London, with the worlds being severed and the doors locked shut to keep the poisoned magic out. After that, unless you were Antari, and by the time Tess was born, there was so few left. There was no way to move between those different worlds. Until now, she had just made one. Tess rushed over to the doormaker, no longer held down by the force of the active spell. It weighed nothing more than what it seemed, a small wooden box. She carried it to the counter. Sometimes Tess fixed things. Now and then she even made them better. But she knew better than most. Anything that could be fixed could be broken again. All right. I know it's a bit shorter today. I feel like having the pace of 1 chapter a week is pretty good. And I don't want to go on for too long with the book. As much as I love it, I think keeping the pace, like I said, 1 chapter a week is good. And that was just the end of chapter 4. Okay. Well, the next chapter is called The Queen, the Saint, and the Sound of Drums. But what a fucking cliffhanger to end on right now. Holy shit. Give me a second. Here we go. Yo, like, that's crazy. I thought, like, okay, she repaired it, and like, wherever the fuck the ring is, she's gonna get teleported over there. Which either would have been the burning house they killed the merchant's son in, or it could have been, I don't know, the 2 people that killed him found the ring, took it, and then took it with them, and she would like end up in the headquarters of the Hand or something. But the fact that she ended up in White London, I am scared to see what will happen next. I know she said that basically now she's trying, like, what can be fixed can also be broken, so I feel like she's gonna try and, well, break it, you know? Just because, you know, if she knows what she did, and she obviously knows that this should not exist. So I really hope she has the time to, like, quote unquote, like, break it again. But I also feel like it's almost been the 3 days deadline. But also, I mean, the merchant's son himself is dead. So the people that now have the card and know about where this box is, the 2 that killed him, will probably find their way to the shop before she can break it again. And then there will be a lot of trouble, I feel like. I also wonder if since it says like it can open the worlds between the doors between the worlds, the obvious one obviously is, I mean, she was in White London, but makes me think of that she could also go to the other ones. And since it's a door that stays open until somebody closes it again, what would happen if they would accidentally open a door again to Black London? Because the last time something that was able to escape out of Black London came into the other Londons, it was bad. It was really bad. And it was only one object and, well, quote unquote, one person. Now, what would happen if there would be a door open between those worlds and anything from Black London can just seep into Red London or wherever that box will end up? That would cause even more disaster than whatever Sauron has done, I feel. The possibilities here are endless. I really hope that Tess can break it again so it can't go to there, or she quote unquote fixes it in the way that it will only work with the key, that it can really just work in its intended way. But right now that box is super fucking dangerous, and I really hope that it won't come to anything super bad. We're about halfway in the book now, about almost 300 pages in, and I am scared to see where this is going. Also knowing that this is going to be another trilogy and this is only the first book. The other two are, I don't think they have been published yet, but considering this is an entire trilogy and this is the first one, I don't know. This world, this universe, I'm so invested into at this point. I have all these like questions and theories going through my mind on how it can go. I am so looking forward to continue reading it. Welcome back, Crystal. Were you actually able to get a little bit of rest in? I hope you did. And please give me some of that food. That looks so good. Listening the whole time. Damn. So good. I can imagine. I want some. Of course you were listening in the whole time. I know how much you like my voice. I know how much you enjoy listening to it. One of the best burgers you've ever had. Oh my god. Now you're making me want it even more. True though. Can't even deny it. I know you. Shopping time, let's go, Slothy. I hope you get everything you need. Enjoy the shopping. We're just wrapping up with the book for today. Big fat girthy kimbops, let's go. Yeah, we're wrapping up with the book already because yeah, I mean, I've only read like 2 hours, about 2 hours, but you know, I always want to keep it to 1 chapter a week at this point. I feel like that's a good pace to keep. A full like chapter and then stop. And we just finished chapter 4 on a bigger cliffhanger than I expected. It's pretty good though. I'm really enjoying it. I love you all. Love you too, Slothy. Please take care. Yeah, there's so many things that are currently like going through my mind about the book on like where it could go, what it could do. Cause like, goddamn, there's so many. 2 cartons, let's go! More eggs for $4.92 per carton, or for 2 together? Oh my god. Is it per carton though? Per carton? Okay. That still feels kind of high in price, but hey, it's better than nothing. I'm glad you can get two cartons though. So many pickles on your burger. Ooh, I love pickles on burgers though. Also, hi, Shara. America being be American right now, they really do. Oh, making me so hungry. I had dinner before stream. $7.99. Oh my god. So crazy, guys. Fucking eggs, bro. They should never be this expensive. Seen $10.90. Oh my god. They were 60 cents. My parents love them. I'm okay. Like, I don't mind eggs. Like, I actually don't like boiled eggs. If I am like preparing some eggs to eat, it's usually either omelet, scrambled, or, you know, just pan fried. Yeah, Crystal is amazing as well. But it's gonna get shared around between all of chat. Meanwhile, over here, like if we just go for like cheap eggs, like a carton of cheap eggs is like 2 or 3 euros here. Oh no. Not the cat trying to steal your egg, your burger. That's crazy. What is that in American? It's about the same. The dollar and the euro are pretty equal, I think. Still, it's like maybe like a few cents difference. It's like 1.99 for like a 10 egg carton. It's probably only like around like 2.10 or like 1.8, something like that. It's like maybe like a 10-cent difference. Not waffles. Oh no, Slothy. I'm sad too. The waffle factory is closed. I hate it. I loved going there. I grew up on those waffles, man. I had them since I was a kid. It's always a blast having you around, Slothy. You take care. We're gonna hop over to some Genshin now, I think. Those waffles made you the man you are today. Yeah, that's why I'm so fat. Those waffles made me fat. No. No, but I had them a lot as a kid, and you know, growing up, every once in a while we bought like a bag or two. Man, and now I will never taste them again. Sad. You guys are great. All right, let me just quickly change my stuff here, and then we're gonna hop over to some Genshin. We have to do the new event. We haven't started that yet. We're just gonna chill for a bit. Don't know what else we will do. Maybe some other games. Maybe just some. We're gonna keep it a bit shorter today. You know when you. Oh, I know that feeling too well, Crystal. I'm sure that burger was amazing. Oh, it's to share. Oh my god. I mean, you can all come and get a piece for sure. All right, there you go. Oh yeah, also we're definitely going to be doing some more karaoke later as well. Not right now, but in a bit we will do more karaoke, that's for sure. I just change a few things around here like that. It's funny. I love you guys. I love you too, Crystal. You're amazing. You don't know how much I appreciate you for yesterday. It meant so much to me. It really did.